Happily, I welcome you, Jean-Marc. Thank you. I didn't see you there getting online. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So good weather so far in 2020. How's 2020 looking? What are the early signs for the
Yes,
vintage?
yes, it's very early. It's yes, it's exceptional because we had no winter, and then the growing season began very early. So we'll see. Everything may happen, but it's probably we'll harvest in August probably. We'll see. We'll see.
Early harvest. Okay, so that's a good sign. Good fruit,
For
and no frost issues. No early
No, we
problems.
were a little bit afraid. We had two difficult nights, but the damage were very low. No.
Jean-Marc, during when you had this frost, how did you manage to avoid the frost? Were you part of these people?
Yeah, we have both. We have two things. We use candles. We have candles, but the risk was really low, and we decided not to put the candle in the vineyard. And we also bought, I don't know how you say, éolienne. How would you translate? It's a
fan. It's a huge fan.
Yeah, huge fan.
Like the gigantic fan we can see on the sea to get.
Yes. And it covers 3 hectares.
Wow.
So we had one in Claude de Baronne. We share it with Dominique Lafont. We had another one in Bourgogne Blanc, in a big plot in Bourgogne Blanc, and we had one this year in Les Luchers. But that means we have to convince about 10 different wine producers, which were concerned by these 3 hectares. But we did it, and so they turned during those 2 nights.
Because the idea is that the air can circulate. If the air gets stuck on a plot, that's when.
Of course, if the frost is too low, is too strong, it would not work. But when it's when it's working, it's help if you make fire north, south, east, west from the éolienne. So it's mixed a lot of the air you mix is higher temperatures than the normal. So it's help to avoid the frost.
Well, gladly there's no frost this year. And how is life in Burgundy right now? Is it pretty much just no visitors, no guests at the Domaine at the moment, obviously, and
no visit, no shipment. No, it's strange, really. And so we're working happily. The vineyard team is working as usual with very strict rules. There are one person per car, and they have to be spaced in the vineyard. But for the office, it's really quiet, and the 2 secretaries are working from their house, and we have a small. I'm at the office in the morning, and my assistant Paul Delorme is here in the afternoon. But it's quiet. Anyway, we already shipped we shipped our 17, but right now we're preparing shipment for 18. So we prepare allocation, but very carefully because of course this crisis with change a lot of things.
Right. And you normally travel a lot. Actually, you get around, and while all of us are probably eagerly looking to going to Burgundy again, you're probably looking to go to Paris.
Yes, I'm not traveling. I'm traveling in France, yes, in Paris especially, but I'm not traveling that much to promote the wine. I went to the Palais de New York, and usually I make 1 trip in Asia per year. And of course, I have a new project in Argentina, so I go twice a year in Argentina. But except those trips, I'm not traveling every time to promote the wine. But I like to go to Paris as often as I can.
And you occasionally go to Hong Kong, maybe once every couple of years. You go to Asia and make a trip as well.
Yeah.
Yes. It's becoming Vas-y, John.
I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up the La Palais, which is where I last saw you in New York at the spectacular Burgundy event, probably the last great party that anybody's been at wine-wise this year in 2020. And
yes.
I was very fortunate because you were very generous. You opened up 4 Jeroboams of wine, 99 and 07 were 2 vintages, the Tesson and the Perrier. And
this was the first flight. Yeah.
Right. And why did you pick those wines, and what is about those vintages, and about the Tesson? Obviously, everybody knows Perrier is your
Well,
kind of
I pick.
flagship wine.
I don't remember exactly. I think I pick one of the 09, and then Robert Bord organized the tasting at the table, and he picked some other Giraud from us. And so this was a very good experience to match all those Giraud Bohème together, especially, you know, 07. I love 07, and tasting 09 in Giraud Bohème is just unbelievable. You know, I have to go to this kind of event because I'm not opening a Giraud Bohème every week at home, you know. And having the wine, it's, you know, I'm more and more promoting Magnum, which is more easier to open for a restaurant or a private customer. But the Giraud is unbelievable. Giraud of 09, if we compare a Giraud of 09 and a bottle, it's a world.
It's like a world of difference. I mean, it's much younger, right, out of Giraud?
Yeah, more fresh. Even if I like my 09, I like the bottle too, but the Giraud is really 2 steps higher.
It's interesting because a lot of people, they say that Magnum is the ideal size to age a wine. That's the common saying.
No.
So you disagree
No,
with
I
that?
think the Giraud is better. I remember having the same, it was a long time ago, having the same, was a Tesson. Which vintage was it? Maybe early 2000, 2002, having it in half bottles, Magnum, Giraud, and maybe Mathusalem. But the Giraud was tipped up, really.
And
Of course, we used in the past to produce some half bottle, but now I have just some to make for the tasting at home. That's all, and we use them only the first year after bottling.
Okay, why don't we, Sebastian, not to cut you off, but I think we do have a wine in front of us that some people are asking us about, the 2016 Roulot Aligoté. And
yes.
Talk to us about Aligoté. Now, it's a different grape. It's its own grape, right? The 16. And what is your connection with the grape? Do you drink it often? How often do you like to drink it? What kind of food do you think it's good for?
You know, it's Aligoté is a tradition for us. It's those are old vine plants coming from my mother's side family, and it's close to National Road, you know, 64, around 74, and those are all vineyard. It's 0.7 hectares, and it's how do you say? It's a tradition for us. So we used to. This is the only wine we're not using any barrel for it. We make this élevage under stainless steel, and it's a shorter élevage than the Meursault. It's only 9 to 10 months of élevage. It's always bottled before the next harvest.
So you just use tank?
Yes. We say Aligoté tiré sur lit. That means we keep maybe more lees than the classical Meursault to make the élevage in the tank. Then we make, after Malo, we make a racking. Usually it takes place in April, May, and then bottling in August.
It's a very citrusy wine to me. It has really nice freshness and brightness. And talk to us about 2016. Now, I know you think there have been a lot of great vintages in the past few years in white Burgundy. Now, 2016 might not be considered one of your most favorite, but talk to us about 16 in general.
Yeah. So the winter, there was no winter. So the vegetation came back very early. The grain process came back very early, and middle of April, everything was combined to. We were totally exposed to frost. Then I think it was late April. I think 26 or 27 of April, we had a big one. And at this time, the producer here, we were used to have some punctual frost, but not a huge frost like this one. And in one night, we lost about 65 to 70% of the crop total. Wow. It's this percentage is an average on all the plots. That means some plots were totally destroyed. We even don't harvest in them. But happily some were avoid the frost. And the only one which totally avoid the frost was Perrier.
Wow. Wow. So no wonder you don't like 16 that much. It was must have been a painful vintage to navigate through.
You know, I remember I took picture in Méchavaux, was early May, and it looks like December. It was unbelievable. So the way the comme ça repousse, tu es là, Sébastien. The way the vegetation come back, it's totally anarchic. You have much more work because the growing is really in every way. And you know, at the final, you will have not nothing, but about nothing. So it's I mean, psychologiquement, it's maybe harder than frost is harder than hail for me. Because it's cut you all from the beginning. Il y a une question là. Do you have a favorite white Burgundy vintage released in the past decade? Alors, yes. J'y vais.
It's a poll for the group, but you can maybe we should let them answer first before you, because then everybody's going to just pick your favorite vintages. So give them a couple of minutes. That's a poll for the group to kind of participate and stuff.
Okay.
We had a couple of early questions. Lily, maybe you want to share one or two of them from the crowd?
So since we're talking about the aligoté, is there a different cuisine or different dishes that you pair with the aligoté versus the Bourgogne Blanc or the Merceau or things like that? Do you eat differently with the aligoté, or it's more of a...
To be honest, I'm not
serious.
very much food and wine, but to be honest, for me, maybe I'm probably wrong, but I never pour aligoté during meal. So that's a wine for me to...
Apéritif.
Well, something like this.
So
I know.
Like very old school about that. Aligoté used to be like aperitif wine.
Yes.
And sometimes they even mix the aligoté, no?
No, I don't like this. No, you mean with liquor?
Mm.
No. I drink it by itself.
Yeah, of course, but they did that in the past.
It's on your palate, but I don't think it's. No, I'm used to Merceau when I'm eating.
Do you age it at all ever, or it's kind of with the release? You drink the aligoté every year.
C'est pas. It's a tradition, but to be honest, j'ai pas le réflexe. I'm not used to taste it every week, for example, as I do for the tasting. If you come for a tasting in the wine in the cellar, you probably have a big range of Merceau, but sometimes I just miss aligoté because it's something different. I'm sorry for that. And I know the aligoté was planted in a very nice part of the slope in the past. I have to look for this, but we are on a classic way of working this vine plant.
Now we have some results in the poll. A lot of people are voting for 2014 as their favorite vintage in the last decade. So what are some of your favorite vintages?
May I comment the result, John? I just want to tell you, in 2 years, 18 will be number 3.
Okay.
I love 18.
And 14 is number 1 for you right now. And
so then
17 will be 2.
Comment?
17 will be number 2.
I would say 17. Yes. But there is no, this is my palate. There is no truth. Nothing is true. Nothing is wrong. It's up to the palate of people. So this is just the way I'm thinking. But that's all. That don't mean you may like 12. You may like 11. It's okay. I'm okay with that.
It also depends if we're drinking tonight or if we're drinking 5 years from tonight.
Excusez-moi, j'ai pas entendu. I'm sorry, I've not understand.
It depends. Ça dépend si nous buvons quelque chose ce soir ou dans 3 ans.
Wait.
Yes.
So if you want to keep them, 14, of course, 14, 17, and 18, and you have to keep 12 too. 12 is is a very special vintage because it was really a tough vintage outside because of hail, and in the cellar was not that easy, and very low yield, a lot of concentration. Then the wine produced some reduction after bottling, but I think you have to forget them. But it's something. If you have a 12 after 11, it's an intense wine. I like them, even if they are not so approachable right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, that you were making, even though these three vintages might be like the iconic great three in your mind. I mean, every year you're making delicious wines. Like the 11s are singing. They're absolutely drinking beautifully right now. It's one of my favorite vintages to drink in general for white Burgundy. And, you know, it's kind of the great thing about, you know, a great producer and a great craftsman like yourself is, you know, every year and every bottle has a different story. And, you know, we're grateful to have so many different wines from you so many years. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the Meursaults, the Lieu D. Now, not too many people do this. Is that something that, you know, why do you think is important? Why do you think some of these wines really should be Premier Crus? It's just impossible to change the system, or, you know, because a lot of, technically they're village wines, but I mean, you know, those Tessons that we had at Paulet were like fantastic, good as many Premier Crus.
Oh, so the answer could be different up to the plot you're speaking about, because since 2010 we have a new appellation we call just regular Meursault, which come from plots below the slope. Then we have the classic one from the 50s and 60s, and you know them, Meursault Vireuil, Meursault Luché, Meursault Méchaveau, Meursault Tesson, Meursault Narvaux, Meursault Tillet. And some of them, yes, you're right, some of them are very well located, and especially the first I'm thinking about is Meursault Tesson, because it's the same level on the slope as the Premier Cru. Then it's a little bit more north, but it's more north, and then the coast is turning a little bit towards Auxey-Durès, and it's a little bit more northeast facing than east facing. But that's all. But Tesson, located, where is it? You know, it's a joke, but I usually say in the cellar, if we would be in Puligny, this would be Meursault. This would be Premier Cru.
Premier Cru, right.
No,
right.
I mean the classification is Meursault is really very strict, very severe. You know, we have no Grand Cru. But the hierarchy, the steps are very obvious for me. So I may try, you know, to push Tesson and maybe ask it to be Premier Cru, but I don't think so. I would never do this because I like better to have a very good village level wine than a Premier Cru, which sometimes will be far away from a Perrier, for example.
Right. And speaking of Perrier, Meursault doesn't have a Grand Cru. Do you think Perrier deserves to be Meursault's Grand Cru?
Alors, the answer is easy for me. You know, Perrier is, you have Perrier dessous and Perrier dessus. And for me, there is no doubt Perrier dessous could be Grand Cru. 20 years ago, the owner of Clos des Perrières asked to be classified as Grand Cru, but only him without the neighbor. And I think the question was maybe a wrong way to ask the question, because all the below part of Perrier is really tip top. And then you have upper part of Perrier, but you know, you may have a very good producer on the top part, Perrier dessus, and then a lower quality in another producer in Perrier dessous. So it's difficult to make a rule. And you imagine that the meeting with the wine grower when you imagine to classify something. And I think we okay. We don't have any Grand Cru, but everybody knows the quality of Perrier, the way it's regular, the way it's come back every year. I will not push to ask. Maybe that will be the work of next generation, but I don't think I will push it in the coming years.
Fair enough. Yes, you have enough to do in the vineyards and in the cellar without having to worry about the politics. I'm sure. And we have a lot of questions. I think what we'll do is maybe open up some questions later on after we kind of finish tasting the wines. And I think you mentioned, somebody said that they had a stunning bottle of 78 Roulot Aligoté last year, which was still fantastic, so I guess the Aligoté can age in an excellent vintage, according to our friend Andy over here. So that's nice to hear. And now we have 2017 Meursault, and I can see why you like 2017 so much. I mean, what a delicious wine. I mean, this is like...
And you know, 17 was a resting vintage after 16, because it was quiet. No, we had a small frost, which was, but it was only in the lower part and only 20-30%. But we avoid the big frost. The disease was easy. We have no mildew pressure. The flowering, the vegetative season was easy in 17, and the temperature were hot, but not as much as in other vintage. So it's a resting vintage for us, and it tastes very good from the beginning. So I'm trying the Meursault 17.
Yeah, it's delicious. I mean, it's got great sweet fruits, really nice honey to it. It's got a richness and a mouthfeel, and just this very sweet, you know, pleasurable kind of palate to it. I mean, it's delightful, and it was a big crop for 17, right? It was a good ample crop to help make up for 16. And what's also interesting is it seems to be maybe not as same for the red wines as it is for the whites, which is often the case sometimes. The whites can be different than reds in any given vintage, which a lot of people, I think, take for granted.
J'ai pas compris la question.
Dis-moi,
Sébastien.
talking about the 17 vintage, you know, and it was a big vintage, right? So it was a big vintage that you got.
In terms of volume, you need, John. Yeah, big crop.
And also about the fact that it's kind of better for whites than maybe for reds. And
Yes.
some people think, oh, if the red wine is good, they equate the white vintages to the red vintages, is what I'm kind of getting at. And really, they can be very different.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Yes. Yes, because the reputation is mainly made, the reputation mainly comes from the reds. So most of the people associate white qualities to red quality, but it's a mistake because it could be quite different. And for example, I think 18 is much better in white. To be checked in the future, but sometimes it's the opposite, huh? So
Right.
sometimes it's the opposite, of course.
Well, maybe we can.
I want to say for the Meursault you're tasting, the Meursault is mainly a big plot we managed since 2011 called Claude la Baronne, and which is about 75 to 80% of the cuvée. We have two other plots, same thing below the slope in Les Croteaux, a small one in Les Gruyaches, and then we had a new one in Sous-la-Velle, and the Narvaux was replanted, and it come back to production, and we decided to put the first year in this cuvée of Meursault 17.
So the young vines of the Narvaux.
Yes. So it's new. It's relatively new because we began in 10, and I have all those plots in 11. But the first Meursault you may find is 10. But it's a big cuvée now for us, and it's interesting to have this basic cuvée to introduce the rest of the range.
A delicious wine. When do you think a good time to drink Meursaults in general? Just right away for the first 10 years, no problem? Or do you like to let them wait 3 or 4 years, 5 years? Depends on the vintage, or what? For just regular AC.
I know it's not. I know most of my wine are drinking in the next 3, 4, 5 years maximum, but it's absolutely a shame. It's a shame, and no, I like Meursault much older. I like to have them between I would say 8, 15 years. I know everybody can't age bottles in his own cellar for that time, but John, you may be the one to speak about old wine because you're tasting so much. But no, having a old Meursault, it's a real experience. And we have decided at the winery to keep our Perrier. We will sell no Perrier this year. We want to keep it and to sell it. I don't know how much year we're going to wait. No, it's the wine are drink too early, early.
It's interesting.
But I know the Premoc's afraid so many people, so now people are drinking the wine too early.
Right.
But the opinions, the judgment, the tasting, now how would you say? Les repères are made on young wine, which is a shame because everybody is making Chardonnay, but we are the only one making Meursault. And the specificity of white Burgundies is to be able to age. And if you drink them after 3 years, there is a nonsense.
Well,
but I know I'm speaking totally against the fashion, the habits, because I know everything is changing, but we have to resist.
Right. I think you have to kind of, well, the great thing, that's why you need to, the producers you like, you buy in quantity and you have them over time, I mean, one of the biggest thrills that I had in the past year, or maybe it was about 2 years ago, was when we had it was last year, we had the Magnum of Roulot Meursault Charmes. I think it was a 76. I mean, that was one of the best white wines I've ever had. I mean, it was so good. It was so delicious. And of course, that was your father at the time making the wine, or
the 76. Yes, my father passed away in November '82, so 76. And 76, he bought Les Perrières. It was also the first vintage of Perrier, 76.
Right. We had the Charms, and now your first vintage was '89. So there was a time there in your life between '82 and '89 when you you at the winery, or you weren't? You were deciding kind of what to do, because I think you said your first vintage was '89 officially.
Yeah, but I worked with my father for a few years. I was 19, from 19 to 22. I worked with him, so I learned with him, but I was not passionate at this time. So I just learned looking at him by habits, just seeing the thing, but acting and theater, this was in my mind. And I decided to quit when I was 22. Then I went to Paris, and I spent 10 years. So I went to Conservatoire National d'Art Dramatique. Then I became a professional actor. But sadly, my father passed away when I was at the school. And then we have to decide what to do with the estate, of course. And at this time, I decided not to quit, not to quit what I've begun. And very quickly, we were looking for somebody to take care of the estate. And so Ted Lemon was recommended to us. He had made internship here in Burgundy. I think Aubert de Villaine spoke about him, Jacques Cess, Patrick Bise. And so, it was winter '82, '83, and we employ him by phone. And he arrived early January '83. So I did the harvest in '82, listening my father, writing everything he was telling to me. And this is the first book I made with the harvest. But Ted arrived in January, and he finalized the élevage, and he signed the vintage. And Ted was here in '82, '83. I think he left after vintage, after harvest '84. Then my cousin, Frank Grux is my cousin. And he was working with us. He took over the estate. So he managed 85, 86, 87, 88. And he left, he quit to go to Olivier Leflèvre in January '89. And at that time, I was 30, 32, 33. I decided to come back. Not to leave acting career, but my priority was Meursault. I want the wine to be good, and I had to fight this. I don't know how to explain, because at 20 it was c'était un fardeau. How would you say? It was a heavy thing to carry on my shoulders.
Right.
when I was 33, I was very excited to do it.
Yeah, and we're very grateful that you made that choice because you've definitely made all of our lives much better by doing the wine. So thank you for that. But you also sometimes you still do some acting, right? I mean, are you? It's kind of like a side thing, but I mean, you were in some films recently, or are you reading scripts every year? Still keeping your.
It was, you know, the happily with the grapes, it's every year. You have a harvest every year. But for acting career, it's sometimes it's up and down, you know. And yes, I did some work on stage, but slowly I switched to shooting for movie or TV. It was easier to manage with the work in Meursault. And you know, I worked was not too bad. Of course, I miss many things, but I was able to work a little bit. But right now it's really calm. There is more than 2 years I've done nothing. But I'm very busy. I'm okay with that. And my main wish is to come back on stage, maybe more than shooting. Voila. But I'm okay with that. I'm very busy here, and excited with my new project in Argentina. And you know, the domain is big. It's not big, but it's 15 hectares, 17 different appellations, and I developed a small negoce since 10 years now, 12 years now.
Yeah, that's two big projects that we're going to get into a little bit. We just tasted that chakra wine last week with a virtual tasting we did with Arvid, and that's fantastic. We have some questions here from some of the people. I don't want everybody to feel left out, so we want to include some of them. A couple of people are asking about what's the present situation with the Primox. How are you addressing the risk with recent vintages? What are there things you're doing differently, or you know, talk about that a little bit. You mentioned it before.
The main change was in 2009, where we managed differently the press. I don't want to be too technical, but there is we separate the last part of the press, and at this part, during this part, you may this is the part you have the extraction of the potentially more oxidative part. So the idea is to provoke this oxidation at the quite beginning of the life of the juice. So we separate the last 10%. It's oxidized. So I mean, that means you don't add any SO2. It's settled. Then the day after, you separate the clear juice from the dirty part, which is lost for the wine. And then the clear juice, you add it back in the 90%. Voila. So this is the main change we did to avoid Primox. I did a lot of change for corking.
Right.
Which doesn't mean I'm using diam, even if you may find a Roulot bottle with a diam, because we did some trial. J'ai pas d'avis tranché, Sébastien, comme on dit.
You don't have a very strict position on that. You don't really know yet. I mean,
voilà. I'm a little bit afraid with diam, because I think it's not avoiding the trouble. It's just postponing it. Because if the problem it's in the wine, the diam cork will avoid the Primox in the first year, but then if it has to happen, it will happen.
But
and
Jean-Marc,
I think the best cork you may have is a natural cork, but high quality. And I push my supplier to increase the quality of the cork. And there is small detail, like for example, when we bottle, we don't lie the bottle right after bottling. You know, you may postpone it for a few minutes, but we leave them this way for 1 or 2 days, so the cork is able to come back to its right size, and the étanchéité is working much better than we lie the bottle. It's small detail like this. I think Primox is many different explanation, different factors, and we also change the way we're managing SO2. We're using less SO2 at the quite beginning. I think we use maybe too much unuseful SO2 on the juice. And as long as the fermenting process is not achieved, you have a long window where the oxidation is not that dramatic. If it's in juice, not in wine, of course. Attention.
Have you found that the last 10 years that you've kind of made these changes, have you noticed a difference? So, I mean, is it kind of so far so good with the changes?
Je croise mes doigts. Hein. Je croise mes doigts. You know, the main damage for us was O2 was 96. And but I know we had some in 2007. Depuis 2012, 2002, maybe just a few in 11, but not that much.
Right.
But we cross our fingers, you know. I think in general the trouble decreased a little bit. I hope so. What do you think, John, about that?
Yeah, I've noticed less and less particular. I mean, I haven't really noticed anything over the past 10 years yet. I mean, sometimes in the mid 2000s, just randomly, not with, not yours necessarily, but just, you know, I've seen some in the mid 2000s here and there, but I do feel like it's getting less. I don't see it as much myself in the glass, which is fortunate. So I'm very pleased about that. And, we have another question that's kind of interesting. How's the camaraderie in Meursault? Do you kind of share information with other producers in the village, or you have kind of certain friends? I know you're close with, you know, certain winemakers that you taste with often or more regularly, or is it kind of, how is it as a community goes? Is there a lot of tasting wines together amongst each other?
So maybe I'm doing less than in the past, but for a long time it was easy for me to go in many places. And maybe I'm more changing with Dominique Lafont. And you know, we had this new estate we share between both estate, Domaine Lafont and nous, in 11. So it's easy to communicate with him, and we have an honest conversation, not hiding any trouble. Anyway, it's easy. About technical thing, it's very easy, and I do it with Dominique a lot. In the other cellar, it's easy to taste, to exchange, to speak with the people. Of course, this period of confinement is not promoting it. Of course, there is no more tasting. But usually, I like to go to see some different cellar in Meursault. Of course, in the Côte every year.
Now you have that. Speaking of Dominique, you know, you both kind of took on the Boucher vineyard, and first you were making Boucher, and then it changed to Clos de Boucher, the Monopole, which is the wine we're going to be tasting next. So talk about that. That's a significant addition, you know, to the portfolio in a recent.
You say you said you like 11, but 11 was an happy vintage because, you know, the year you're bringing 3.5 hectares to the Domaine, you're happy, of course. So, so there was the Clos de la Baronne. I spoke about it, and about the Boucher. We bought a small plot of Boucher in 1996. It was a tiny plot, 0.16, 0 hectare, 0.16. It was a special plot because we have to watch it like the milk on the fire. I mean, in terms of maturity, it goes very fast. The slope is deep in Boucher, and I like the wine we produce when we had a vintage with good acidity level. 04, the first one, 96, was really good. 99 was good, but it was something special. Then, so I have a feat in Les Bouchers. It's not that known because it's small. And there was this big Clos de Boucher, which was owned by Labourerois. And then the estate was on sale, and I told Dominique we should try to have it, find investors, and share the estate. So the first thing we did, both of us, is to go to a restaurant in Beaune and share the estate in case of. It's better to do this way than you know, after it would be much more difficult. So it was easy because Dominique was missing only two premier crus, Port-Rousseau and Boucher. So there, in this estate, there was a plot of Port-Rousseau. He took it, and I was able to give him my previous Boucher if I had the monopoly of Clos de Boucher. So I was very happy because I had this Clos de Boucher. I was managing it, and Dominique was able to have both Port-Rousseau and Boucher. And then for the big Clos de la Baronne, which is 3.2, pardon, de 70, 2.7, we share in two parts.
Right.
Between Lafont and us.
He's making a Meursault under the Clos de la Baronne label, but
Yeah.
yours goes into the regular Meursault.
Yes.
But this Clos de Boucher has quickly become recognized as one of the top wines in your portfolio, I think, by a
It's
lot
a nice,
of.
it's you know, having, you know, it's 1 hectare point 37, which is really big. It's a real close. The walls are huge around the vineyard, and we're so used to have small plot, you know, among others. So it's really nice to have this part with big walls, trees. We can manage and do a work we're not able to produce in every place. So slowly, you know, when we get the plot, they told us, the estate, they told us we're almost in organic. So that means you just have to know what's mean almost. And but the vineyard was nice, but you know, the way we prune was a bit different, and it took maybe 3, 4, I would say 5 years to be at the, I mean, to sign the viticulture the way we like it. Voilà. But it's a very nice plot this is mid slope, very good east facing. It's beautiful. Being there, it's such a nice place, and very quickly it's become one of the top wine of the estate.
Yeah, and you know, we were supposed to have the 2016, which you had in the glass. I actually have the 2017, which I'm not. Somehow, you know, the 17 came my way here, which I'm actually not mad based on your glowing comments about 2017. So why don't you talk about 2016, and then maybe I'll share some notes about the 17.
Okay, I'm open the 16. Just leave me 1 minute. Okay.
All right. Well, then, you know what? I'll do the 17 first then, because I've been working on it for a while now. It's interesting, you know. First of all, I see what you're saying, you know, about, oh, well, this is a wine that you want to wait 10, 15 years. I mean, it easily can go that distance. I mean, but I still get pleasure out of the wine. I don't feel like, okay, yes, it's a little bit young, but it still has that great sweetness of the vintage. It still has that, you know, for me, I'm getting a lot of honey to go with like kind of the icy white fruits, you know, that kind of little crystallized fruit. The minerals are clearly there, the smokiness. I mean, it's a complex wine from an ample vintage. I feel like it has ample fruit. It's well like endowed. It's rich, and it goes very. The length is kind of. It slowly goes on and on and on and on, and to me, that's like the sign of a really great wine. So 17 is fantastic for sure.
So about 16, I spoke to you about the frost. Boucher was damaged, but maybe less than it was damaged. I would say 50%, 40 to 50%. So when the frost was higher, sometime I think the 16 lack of energy. There is a dynamic we are missing. So in this Boucher, I'm okay with it. Maybe it's not as tight as the 17 you're tasting. I'm not the 17 with me tonight, but I would say the 16, of course, is to be tasted before 17. I like it. I would expect more. I like the laser aspect you may have in 17, and maybe this aspect is a little bit hidden in 16. But I like the wine.
Right. Maybe a little more time to kind of find itself after the difficult conditions of the.
Do you think it's because 16 is closing down a little bit or not, Jean-Marc?
Pardon?
Est-ce que tu penses que 16 se referme?
No, I would not say that. No.
So it's not
I
posing
think no, je pense pas. Anyway, it's too early to try it, but I would not say is no. The way I'm tasting it today is the way I was expecting.
And I have a question about the difference between the 16 and 17, and it's more like a general about aging your wine. When you make the wine, the process of making the wine, will you don't use a lot of oak, or you don't even use new oak.
Yes.
So will you of course adapt depending on the vintage?
You mean the percentage of new oak?
We.
Yeah, what's your philosophy with using oak and new oak and?
So ideally, when it's possible, I like to have from a simple Bourgogne Blanc, which is between 5 and 8% of new oak. For a village wine, village level wine, I would say 15, and Premier Cru 20-25%. That means I have for Meursault. That means I have barrel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, sometimes 8 years old, sometimes 9, and but it's not that easy to keep all barrel. So the way we're making the vinification, I mean the racking, is as close as possible to the next harvest. Usually when we come back from vacation, late August, the first job is to rack the wine of the previous harvest. So the barrel are empty for a very short time. Then we fill them with the new juice. So if you manage this way, it's easy to have all barrel. But when I taste in the cellar, I'm never tasting new barrel, even 1 or 2 years old. I like to try the wine in 4 or 5 years old barrel. Well, I think the wood, it had to support the wine, never push it. Voilà. It's a support like tannin, like alcohol, like many things in the wine. But you know, it's sometimes it's happened. I remember in a restaurant having a white Burgundy, I was more able to recognize the barrel producer than the wine. So this is anyway. I know the fashion of wood is decreasing for sure, but so that's ideally what I like when the crop is normal. But you have to imagine when you lost 80% of your crop, what are you doing with your barrel? So for example, this was the case in 16. That's the reason I decided to produce a cuvée of Bourgogne Blanc with my négoce. I bought grapes, I bought juice, of course, to have something to sell. But the main focus was to fill the barrel. So I was able to have my barrel filled during the full years. Then they were available for 17.
Right. So let's talk about some of the new projects a little bit, because there have been a few questions about that. We touched upon the Chakra wine in Argentina, which I thought was fantastic. I had it for the first time last week with Arvid when we did a virtual.
Which vintage you tried, John? Which vintage was it?
I think it was, I want to say 18. Was it 18, Lily?
18.
2018.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, for $45 a bottle to have your hands on that wine, and I mean, Patagonia. I mean, that's high, mountain kind of climate. So talk to us about that project a little bit, about Argentina. What's going on there? Your involvement, how much you involved, etc.
Okay, so I know Piero because we're working both with Grand Cru Selection in the States, and I know him through Robert and Ned at this time, and he built this project in 2004, producing only Pinot Noir, grafting Pinot Noir on all the Merlot vine plant, and I guess you know the wine. It's delicious Pinot Noir, very delicate. You say Pinot Noir from South America, you imagine something big and strong, and it's what Piero is doing over there. It's just great. And we were at a dinner at Guillaume d'Angerville, and he he told us he was thinking to try some Chardonnay, some white, and then we spoke about that, and I told him, why don't you ask me? And then the idea, it took a long time, because, and then we decided he wanted me to go there. I visited Argentina in was summer 16. Then we decided to begin in 17. And so they grafted. And at the beginning, we have the production from the estate, but we bought grapes from the outside. But the grafting is increasing. And now, especially since 18, the part of the outside grapes is decreasing. And now it's no more than 10, 15%. So I think the quality is increasing. The viticulture is really nice, beautiful. It's organic, but I mean, the work is c'est magnifique. And going there, of course, it's a challenge, because you go in a place where you have not the tools you have here in Burgundy. You have no repairs. There is no the history. You have there is no background. So I went there only with what I knew from my Meursault experience. Of course, the support of the technical team for the vineyard is tip-top. But I mean, in terms of vinification, it was an experience. And I told Pierrot, I don't want to discuss what we're going, I mean, in terms of business. I just want to see what we are going to produce in terms of quality. So we produce those, we just manage the fifth vintage. And I think the quality increase. We produce, so it's not a terroir, raisonnement. How do you say raisonnement, Sébastien?
You mean, par rapport à la bio.
No, c'est pas. I mean, the two different cuvées doesn't come for terroir notion. It's a blind tasting, and we make an assemblage. So it's totally opposite of what I'm doing here.
Blended wine.
We have a block we like especially, and maybe since 2020 we'll produce a third wine, which would be a specific terroir. But right now we produce a Menke, which is the name of the small village towards the winery, and the top wine is called Chakra Chardonnay.
I need to get that, because I only had the Menke, which I thought was delicious. I mean, it's
okay.
But
so,
I didn't even have the other one. So Lily, please make a note for my next shipment that
okay.
Chakra,
I love Chakra 19. The last 19, really Chakra 19. I like it. I
recommend that everybody gives it a try, because it's a great way to get a taste of your winemaking skills in a different environment. It's exciting, it's interesting, and the wines are very good quality for sure. So we look forward to kind of continuing to taste those wines, and hopefully you will continue to be involved as year after year. You're staying with the project, of course, and you're going to continue to work with it.
Thank you, John.
Yes, and the other project, of course, the micro Negos project, which some people were asking about.
Yes.
Where now you have your hands on 4 new terroirs in tiny quantities, and there is obviously Chevalier Montrachet, there's the Courteau Charlemagne, there's the Polini, 2 Polinis.
At the beginning, I had Cailleret and Folatière, but I stopped with Folatière. I did it just for 2 years.
You just kept the Cailleret.
Comment?
Tu as juste gardé le Cailleret. You just kept the Cailleret.
Yes. And so this happened in 14, because we spoke about 16 with the frost, but 14 was we lost 50% with due to hail. So it was a little bit discouraging. And I built my negos to be able to produce my brandies, my liquors. But at the time, I told myself, I'm negos, I could buy grapes. But this was not the initial project with the negos. So some people suggest me to try to find grapes, because I want to buy grapes. I don't want to buy juice, because at least, so you're not managing the vineyards, so at least you should manage the press, because the press it's a key point for me. Voilà. And so if I have, because the tradition in négoce is not to buy grapes. It's not that easy to negotiate and to make people accept to sell you grapes. Bon, I did it for Puligny Cailleret, for Folatière at the 2 first year, for Corton Charlemagne, and I had 1 barrel of Chevalier Montrachet.
Okay, 1 barrel, 25 cases, nothing.
Yeah. And I want to say I had the right pressure machine to do it, because there is a pressoir, the name is Pera, which I'm able to, with this one, I'm able to make exactly the same press as in a big press. I mean, if you have just 1 barrel in a big press, it's not that easy to manage. But this press, Pera, it's worked quite well. And it's exactly the same press I'm using for Tesson, Perrières, Chardonnay, Bourgogne Blanc, etc. So it's helped me a lot. And I was excited to do this. I was excited. Of course, my négoce project is always, because I don't want any confusion between Domaine and négoce. Right. You know, the label are different. So the bottle is the same bottle, but on the label, it's clearly explained about grapes, and I don't want no confusion. So it's nice to make a complement of the Domaine's range, especially in this terroir, where we are not. And the cuvée of Corton is increasing with the time, because I found 2 new purchases. And in the future, Corton will be a bigger cuvée and with good plot, voilà, avec a good location.
Right, and the biggest difference, I mean, obviously for the Domaine wines, you're there in the vineyards, and with the négoce wines, it's not the same. It's more, you're not managing the vineyards like you do for the Domaine stuff. That's the biggest difference.
So I try to buy organic, but sometimes it's not the case. But the way the only way I can play with is to say yes or no. Right. But sometime in catalog, in selling from auctions, they wrote I was managing the vineyard. That's wrong. I'm not managing the vineyard, but I'm just able not to buy if I don't like the way they manage the vineyard, or I don't like the grapes. That's the only point I can play. There is a new one. With the time, I can decide the harvest date, which is important. Voilà. When people trust you after some years, for example, in Corton, since 2 years, I'm able to decide the harvest date, which is important, because with the style of the estate, I can harvest 8 days later than I would like.
Right. Yeah, that's a meaningful difference. I mean, that's kind of the $1 million question every year is what day to pick, right? And so
with the global warming, it's becoming a key point, because in the past we used to harvest late September, sometimes early October, and late September or early October, if you have 1 day more or less of sun, I mean, the days are shorter and the sun is not as hot. But if it's late August, 1 day less or more, it could change a lot. So the window where we're able to pick, it gets more narrow. It's really becoming a key point. Very important.
Is it a technical decision where you're measuring, sugars and grapes and levels of pH or acid, or is it kind of, do you stick your
of course
and say?
Of course, I make the analysis, but the decision come mainly from the tasting. Yeah, I go in the vineyard. We go in the vineyard with my team, and we taste the grapes. Which taste we're expecting from this kind of grapes. The way the skin separate from the pulp, the way it tastes. How are the seeds? But sometimes the seeds. When I remember with the sun we had in 15, all the seeds were brown very quickly. But the taste, The taste is the most important thing.
Interesting. So it's really
we have the reputation to harvest early, but I can tell you when maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was maybe one of the first, maybe sometimes the first one. I'm no more the first one. There are maybe 4 or 5 producers harvesting even earlier than us, even if we are harvesting early. But you know, early or late, I don't like this debate. I just think I'm harvesting when it's mature. That's all. But the name mature doesn't mean the same thing for different people. You just have to focus on what you want in your glass. That's all. But of course, I hate to go too early. I have in my mind 2007 because the spring was very hot, and the flowering time said us we were probably harvesting 25 of August. Then July and August were very, very bad weather, and at the final, we had to cancel the harvesting and rebuild a new one 8 days later. And you know, harvesting a Meursault at 11.8 or 12.5 because 07 was not high degrees, it changed a lot. Voilà, ça change beaucoup. Mais you have to be reactive. Et voilà, c'est tout le problème. This is all the questionment for harvest.
But in 09, sorry, John. 09, you picked pretty early, and your 09 are very different in most of the Meursault. That they're like super great 09s.
Mm-hmm. Ouais, bah, 09, it's the opposite. You know, 07 was postponed, but we began early September. 09, yes, we began 1st of September. On était dans les premiers. We were among the first. Yes.
I can safely say that whatever you're doing, don't change a thing, because I certainly love your wines and love everything that you make. I mean, every bottle of Roulot is a special occasion. I mean, it really is something I can say from my heart.
But we made some mistake.
Yeah, well, we'll find those out on our own. You don't have to tell us the mistakes, you know, let us discover that. That's the beauty about wine, you know, opening up a bottle. Every bottle is like a different personality, and we see your personality in all the wines, and that's like what makes them so great, I think.
Thank you.
But we also have something else that you're making now. You're making a little bit of liqueur. Talk to us about that. How did that start? Where did that come from?
10 seconds.
Okay. All right. This is now a station identification break. You're watching Acker TV. That's ACKER. Thank you all for tuning in to us. By the way, we do have a bunch of Jean-Marc's wines to offer to you guys at Zoom who came first. So somebody was asking where you can get the wines. We have some. We'll send you guys an offer later in the afternoon. And now Jean-Marc is back to talk about some L'Abricot.
Okay, L'Abricot. Yes. Alors l'abricot, the story. It's funny l'abricot because you know we had a tradition of brandy in the family. We own the machine since 1866. Wow! So all the generation have been distillating, producing mainly Mar de Bourgogne, Fine Bourgogne, and they were working for all the village. And it's fun because the place I'm sitting is the place where in the past my father used to make the distillation. So I saw my father, I watched him doing Fine Bourgogne and Mar de Bourgogne, and he did some pear brandy and raspberry brandy. And I wanted to reconnect with this. So that's the reason I built my négoce in 2008 to be able to buy fruit. So I did some pear, raspberry, and was happy to do it. Then I found in the cellar, I've never seen him doing this liquor, but a long time after he passed away, I found 12 bottles of liqueur d'abricot, and this was absolutely delicious. And we drink all the bottle, and I decided I have no recipe, but I have to look for. So I began slowly, and then I was able to produce in 2008 the first liquor. So I bought it's abricot from Rhône Valley, abricot Bergeron. I need to get them very mature, very mature. So we take the pit out, and it's a maceration in a neutral alcohol for 6 months. Then we obtain infusion d'abricot, and from this infusion we make a dosage to do the liquor, adding sugar and decreasing the degrees to 25. And what you have to know is usually a liquor is lower degrees, is usually 18, 20. This one is 25, and le sucre, the sugar, is lower than usual. Sugar usually in a liquor is 250 grams per liter. This one is 170. I want something punchy, so, and it's I have to say it's hugely successful here in Burgundy. There is abricot du Roulot in many places around Meursault, Beaune, Dijon. So it's big now. The production is big. And so I did also now, I produce also a brandy from the same apricot. I make them fermenting, take the pits out, crush them like the grapes, put them in a big stainless steel tank. It ferments very quickly, no more than a week, because the sugar level is lower. And then we make the distillation and have a apricot brandy. So apricot brandy, pear brandy, raspberry brandy, and apricot liqueur. Plus, this morning we were tasting trial with lemon. I want to produce something with lemon. So I tried something with organic lemon coming from Sicily, and we tried different versions, but we're working on it. And I think maybe next year we have something on the market.
It's good to see you with the different role as a winemaker and liqueur maker. I mean, this is amazing. This is the first time I've had it. I generally try to only drink wine. It's kind of a personal thing, but I mean, this... you
know, the distillation was a school for the wine, because when you make the distillation, you can be wrong. If you're wrong, it's not the distillation is good, or you forget it. You can be this way. You have to select the beginning, to select after the what we call le cœur, the herbs of the distilla, but about the smell, about the texture, about the precision. Distillation was a school for wine for me.
Interesting.
I have a question about Jean-Marc.
Yeah.
You said that you still have the distillation machine since 1866.
Yes.
So you're probably one.
Not the same. There's a lot of evolution on it, of course.
Yeah, of course. But you're one of the very few producers who still have this, because in France, right, it's hard to be able to make your own distillation products, right?
Yeah, and but you know, in the past, people used to drink this, to have this at home. And in the 50s, 60s, every producer was allowed to have 10 liters of pure alcohol, which means 20 liters at 50. So everybody wanted it. So it was a business. My father was working for 3-4 months doing this, Mar et Fin, for all the wine producer, and everybody was bringing his Mar, his must here, or his lees to make the distillation. So it was a big activity, and you know, no, it was very important for my father generation. But now not nobody, but it's people don't use it as they don't drink it as they drink it in the past. So it's just a niche, and it's just a niche. And I think the rule of the Mar de Bourgogne appellation, it's a shame, because it's totally disconnect from terroir notion. So since 3 years, I'm separating my must after pressing of different cuvées, and I make the distillation separately. So I will be able to produce Mar de Tesson, Mar de Luché, Mar de Charme, Mar de Perrières. I have 5 on Mar de Bouchère. But I'm not allowed to do this, so the name will not be Mar de Bourgogne. Ça s'appelle Eau de Vie de Mar.
Yeah.
But you know, I will write on the label.
Name.
Comment?
It will have to be a more generic name.
But I will sign Jean-Marc
Oh,
Roulot,
yeah.
so everybody will understand.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because people really don't think about like this concept of like a digestif or an after dinner drink. I think has kind of become a lot of wine dinners. It's not really the same culture, at least here in America. You know, everybody wants to try more wines. They'd rather say, oh, let me try 2 or 3 more wines and squeeze them into the dinner, you know, but it's actually, you know, the idea is to have something, you know, like this after dinner or with a cigar or cigarette for those of that smoke or like to hang out, you know, and but I mean, this is delicious. I mean, this kind of, I can see this going good after dinner, also going quite well with breakfast, actually. It might be a good breakfast drink here, this Labrico. I mean, I need to start my day this way here. I have a lot to get through now over the past, you know, I have a lot of this to drink. I might be forced to start keeping some spirits in the household thanks to this. It's exciting, and so it's interesting. So you really, is this like the biggest production you make now? Like as far as number of bottles, it's bigger than any of the wines, or is it still kind of small in that boutique level like the wines?
Abricot is big. Abricot is big. It's close to Bourgogne Blanc production. No, to be honest, I produce 20,000 bottles of Abricot. So it's big.
Okay. So
this year I produced 20,000.
Right. So that's.
But I have to be honest because pear is much smaller. Pear is no more than 800 bottles, and the raspberry is even smaller, 500. But even if it's small, it's good to have it.
Yeah, beautiful wines. A couple other questions before we let you go here. I think we had some, is there a particular kind of glassware that you prefer to use personally, or what do you?
You're speaking about the wine or the liquors?
No, well, I guess wine in general is more where glassware is more important. But then, what would you drink your liquor in as well?
Alors, about the, I would recommend. Well, of course, it's not very original, but I like a lot Zalto. I'm using Universal Zalto at the cellar at home, and I have, you know, these glasses is a glass called Grassel glass. It's a new one, and probably you know it, and I like it too. It's a little bit smaller than a Zalto, very light like a Zalto, and you may compete very well near a Zalto wine. So I have both. I use both of them at the winery and at my home.
Nice.
Would you like to make your own glasses like Roberto?
No, we of course, but I'm doing a lot of things, so I'm not going to have a glass project. No.
Okay, don't give him any more projects. All right, he's got his hands full. Don't stop giving the poor man work here. But we have another good question here before we wrap up. What are some of the wines you like to drink besides your own wines? I guess there are wines in Burgundy, some of your favorites, maybe 3 or 4 you can mention, and then maybe what are some of your favorites outside of Burgundy that you find yourself really interested by?
Il y en a beaucoup, hein? There is a lot. Recently, I went to Friuli, and I discovered really delicious white wine. To mention one producer, Vineyards d'Adoline, I like it very much. I like some. I think Italy and Spain are changing a lot. There are wonderful white wine in Galicia. Of course, I like the Commander G, close to Madrid. I like the wine of Pedro Parra in Chile. Just to mention some bottles I drank recently. I had a Bernard Ott from Austria, a Grüner Veltliner. You know Bernard Ott?
Yep.
I like it. I like it. It was 17 Grüner Veltliner. In general, I like Austrian wine, German Riesling. Voilà, about the French, ben, I like, j'aime la Loire, j'aime la Champagne. J'aime la Champagne. Voilà, Charton taillé, j'aime différents styles, different style of champagne. No, I'm open-minded, and we have a lot of bottles at home. And the tradition during the harvest is never to have our own wine to taste at table, but we taste wine coming from other producer or other region or country.
Well, that's what we like to do. And thank you so much, Jean-Marc. You've spent a lot of time with us on this
Thank
for
you.
lunch in the Vineyards in our first series. It's been great to have you here. Great to have your wines. We're fortunate to have some of Jean-Marc's wines that we'll be sending you a little offering of after this. And I look forward to seeing you again in person, hopefully later this year, sometime soon. But in the meantime, keep up the good work and keep making the great things for us to put in our glass. Thank you so much.